And we're back here on News Talk 1492.3 WOND. I am your host, Blake Roselle. Thank you all, like I said, for tuning into another week here of the program. We had a great first half of the hour here with my guests, and I'm going to bring them back on in just a second. But before I do, I always like to thank my sponsors for making this show possible and all their support throughout me and my show. And it does not go unnoticed. And I always like to give those businesses the same recognition that they give me. Castle Supermarket of Margate for all your groceries, bakery, deli, and everything that you can imagine. All delicious and fresh there at Castle's in Margate, New Jersey, right over the bridge. Say hello to my man Howard when you see him. Versus Bakery for all the breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We're all catering for all events possible. Everything's fresh, delicious, homemade Italian sandwiches, meats, homemade pasta, desserts, cookies, Italian spreads. You're throwing a party, you're throwing an event you want to cater, birthday party, whatever the case may be, or you just want to have a nice little Sunday dinner, come on down to a Versus Bakery located in Margate, Turnersville, and Brigantine. Say hello to my man Ralph. Tell him the big man sent you. South Jersey All Sports of Northfield for all boxing class indoor rentals. Stop on by and see Tracy Blake for an all new turf line facility, football training, everything else in there. South Jersey. You're looking for a place to train. You want to bring your high school team or your middle school team there, coaches. Reach on out to Tracy Blake at South Jersey All Sports of Northfield. Blake's Gymnastics Training Academy, also of Northfield on Western Mill Road. Call for classes for boys and girls, birthday parties, tumbling, Ninja Warrior, everything else you can imagine. You want to be a gymnast, you want to get into some classes. Tracy Blake also has a gymnastics school right next to South Jersey All Sports of Northfield. Give Tracy a ring or stop on by to sign up for classes for boys and girls. Adults of all ages are welcome. Angelo's Fairmount Tavern of Atlantic City, a dining staple. You want to go for a nice Sunday meal, you want to do catering events, same old thing at Angelo's Tavern. You want to go down there if you're in for a weekend. Stop on by and see my man Angelo for a delicious Italian meal. The best of the best in the area, celebrating 87 years of dining excellence, a staple in Atlantic City restaurant world. And last but not least, my good friend Gino down on Mazza's Market, a little Italian deli and coffee house. Gino has the coffees from all over the world, espressos, you name it, cappuccino. He's got everything, Italian meats, deli sandwiches. And he's right there on Mill Road, not too far from Blake's Gymnastics. So you can actually stop on by and get a sandwich from Gino and then go down to Blake's Gymnastics and sign up for some gymnastics classes. And with that being said, thank you to all my sponsors for their constant recognition, their constant support of the Big Man Support Live. We do always thank you always. Now let's get back here to the program on News Talk 1492.3 WOND. You hear all those Italian restaurants and meats and delis and everything down here I got?
I know my mouth's watering right now.
I mean, come on.
Damn, I could have went for
New York and Little Italy ain't everything.
Listen, here's the thing. And honestly, I might get, banished for this comment. But I've been in Boston a lot over the last few months, doing a lot of shows there and this and that for work. And I got to say, their Little Italy is probably the best in the country.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard good things about Boston.
They got good food. The food's great. And the thing is, their Little Italy's 20 blocks long. I mean, it's huge. You could literally walk up. It's actually really.
I've heard good things, and I would love it. To my bucket list. I'd love to get up there at some point. But I actually am going to the San Gennaro feast. I went last year. I'm going to go to the Feast of San Gennaro this year in September. I always go up to Mulberry Street. So I had a good time last year.
Yeah, so. I know. I need to go to San Gennaro stuff. I've been to already 6 feasts this year.
Well, thanks again, Poor Chopz Comedy, for coming on the program. We've had a good first half of the hour. We talk a little about your life, and how you got into comedy and what it's like to actually be performing on the stage. So I want to talk about some things in the second part of the show here about, what is it like in the social media, Instagram world? Who are some people you had the pleasure of working with? Some recognition you've been getting on Instagram and, on local New York television stations and all that stuff. What has that experience been for you? And what are some things that you take from that?
Oh, I mean, it's been wild. It's definitely been, awesome to have these great opportunities given to me, Especially, I got a lot of these opportunities, because Little Mo, Cooge, these guys, the big social media guys in New York, they think I'm funny, right? So it's it works well together. So it's like when they see an opportunity that maybe they can't get involved in, or they think would be a good opportunity for me, they always throw a little life raft out there. They pull me in onto the big cruise ship.
I saw you, as you said, you did a lot of stuff with Mike Marino. I've seen a lot of stuff that you did. You did the Access Daily with Little Mo and Mario Lopez there on and down in New York. What was that like? I know we talked a little bit off of record about that, but what was some more of that experience like?
Yeah, that was a fun experience. It was definitely overall a cool experience. We had like a food war battle, and the thing is, we were mic'd up the whole time. I didn't even realize it. I knew we were mic'd up, but I didn't think they were on. And I'm going in. I'm talking so much. And finally, the guy comes over to me, and he's like, dude, you are hilarious. He's like, I've been listening. He goes, everyone here has been listening to what you've been saying for the last 20 minutes. I'm like, did I say anything bad? Because I don't remember what I said 3 seconds ago. And he's like, no, everything's funny. I was like, all right, you go back over it. I'm going to keep talking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was funny, too, because he even asked me, he goes, they show you right before you go on. They're like, here's your intros. This is what, how they're calling you out. Like, you read it. So when they say that, to take your cue and go. So I'm like, I can't walk out to that. So I get into the teleprompter. I delete with Mario, the way he was supposed to call me out, and I actually put in one of my jokes, like the way I start off, like when I actually get on stage, I'll be like, pork chops, never to be confused with lamb chops, because that was a puppet, and I'm definitely not kosher. So I had him say that to bring me out, which it worked out good because he had fun saying it,
right.
And because I even told him after, I said, I changed the teleprompter. He's like, I like that. So we were laughing. It was funny.
So what was that? Was that like a so Access Daily? I know a little bit about it. Is that like a big major New York program that goes on? Is it the morning show?
Yeah, it's a morning. So they have Access Dailies in the morning, and then they do Access Hollywood at night.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, it was basically a food court battle. So me and Mo brought our 3 favorite pizza, a sandwich. So I have a sandwich in Queens, New York, at Mario's Meat Market. Great place.
I've heard great things, and I've seen a lot of stuff on Instagram.
If you're in Middle Village, go to Mario's Meat Market. It's the best. So they have a sandwich there, the pork chop special, where it's chicken cutlet, roasted peppers, fresh mozzarella, baby spinach, balsamic vinegar, and sun-dried tomatoes. Phenomenal. Great sandwich.
You're making me hungry now.
Yeah, no, it's like really good. So we did that. We brought pizza, which I brought from Pizza Classica, and then we did like a dessert spot. And they basically tried it out and judged it, and we ended up being a draw.
So yeah, it came to be a draw.
It came to be a draw,
So like after you were on Access Hollywood, Access Daily, did you get like a lot of was there like messages, calls? Hey man, I saw you on when you're out in public. Oh yeah, you're the guy from the Access Daily.
Yeah, I had like a little spike into my numbers on social media. Cool. That helped, and then once people see, the thing is social media, especially Instagram, is like a resume for me. So when people see he's everybody wants to deal with somebody who's hot or popping, right? Like everyone's like, oh, let me on your show, and people are like, nah, I'm good. But then all of a sudden you start doing good, and everyone's like, hey, I want you on my show. People have to understand that's how that works. In order to be on things, you have to get to that point where people want you on those things. It's not about them making you famous. It's about them. It's not even about you making them famous. It's about 2 people on the same level where you're out there doing your thing, and you're helping each other grow because you both have an audience.
Right. Yeah, and that's a good point too. Like you always try to I know a lot of people that are involved in the social media influencing, or if they're comedy or whatever, entertainer, whatever the case may be. I think like always giving back is kind of like a big thing. Like you want to, as much as you want to grow as a person and what you're doing in your craft, you also want to try to help other people too. And I felt that way also. Going through what I'm doing with the media and the podcast, I always feel like it's good to try to help other people as well.
Yeah, I mean, I help people all the time in comedy. It's whether I listen to one of their jokes, and the thing is, when I hear somebody tell a joke, it's like almost like instinct that I could hear when they say something that maybe they're working on it and they haven't found the right word to say in that one spot. I'll hit them up and be like, yo, why don't you try saying this? Or why don't you try saying that? Like, that's what I thought of when I heard you saying it. Or when I see, I help people help themselves. If I see you out there, you're grinding, you're putting in work, and I see, you're funny, and I wouldn't mind, saying something for you, I'll help you get on a stage. Like that you probably can't get on because I made a lot of friends in comedy. Like, Tehran, let's just say, in LA.
Sure.
He's my comedy mentor. Like, without him really that guided me through the last couple of years, I probably wouldn't have gotten as far as I got to.
Right.
But he's seen something in me to where I have it, so he didn't mind really helping me. Right. But when I see, people like, there was this kid, Josh Dewey, he's from Lancaster, and very funny kid. It's just he didn't have a lot of opportunity out there, and he was going to LA. So, I reached out to my friend Tehran, and I've never even asked him to put me on stage. But for him, I did that. You know what I mean? Because I feel like he deserved the opportunity. And you know what? He went up there and he killed it. He did great. Now Tehran's friends with the kid Chopz. It was like a whole thing.
Good
so
connection, yeah.
Right, you brought people together. You gave somebody an opportunity, and they crushed it. So it's, I like doing that. And I don't even do it for recognition. I don't care. For me, I just want you to do good. You deserve it. I want to see you do good. Do good. I don't want nothing from you. Just kill it.
Yeah. And that's so important too, especially like, when if you've been helped along the way, or someone's throwing you a bone, someone's throwing you that way to get your foot out there, get your feet wet, right?
Sure.
It's always good to give back, and I've always been a big believer in that,
Yeah.
So what are some places that you usually you perform at, or some places that you've been able to do your comedy at? I know you said you work with Mike Marino. Do you have like a tour schedule or something? Certain local comedy factories? Where do you usually do your funny work?
With Mike, a lot of the times it's anywhere in like the Northeast. So like New York, New Jersey, Boston, New Hampshire, Florida. We do a lot. Like this winter coming up, I know we're going to be booked up a lot. Like pretty much every weekend, I'll be going down to Florida between Naples, Tampa, Boca, West Palm, all over the place we're going to be. Without a doubt, So we got he actually has a lot of shows booked. I'm just gonna tag along for fun. No, but Mike's a great dude.
Though.
He is. He right there. See, that's an opportunity. He hits me. He gives me these opportunities to go on the road with him and do these fun things and be on tour, and I get to learn from a 30-year veteran, and it's only elevating me more. No matter how good I think I am, there's always better. And I love to surround myself with that better, because that's how you grow. I don't want to be with people doing worse than me. I always want to be with people doing better than me, because how am I ever going to learn?
Right.
Like I said, I've only been in comedy like 2 years and a few months. That's it. And I know enough, and I'm good on stage, and I can write jokes, but I could always be better. I could always grow more, and that's what the advantage and the opportunity I get being around all these great comedians.
Yeah. Absolutely, and that's a great point too. Like, so I've always heard in comedy, writing's big as a comedian, right? I had some other comedians on as well in the past, and a lot of things that came up. One of the things they said was writing. Right. Now, why is it so important to write? Is it just like kind of rehearsing your jokes, or writing different ideas down, or where does do you write personally, or do you try to come up with a lot of your stuff just to kind of off key, off your head, or how does it work for you?
I write a lot. Like even the stuff I come up with off key, it was written somewhere, but it's never verbatim. It's like you write ideas, then you work it into a joke, right? Writing is important because it's very easy to make the average person laugh, right? Like I could go on stage, lift my shirt up, and go blah, 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 and shake my boobs, my man boobs, and everyone would laugh, right?
Right.
But when you're there, like these big clubs, and you're around big people, and people look at your writing like, oh wow, he's funny, but you know what I mean? Like he's going for the low hanging fruit, or he's like an idiot, or
right.
Like when you could write, now it's like the people, like I don't want to say people where it counts, but behind the scenes where it counts, those are the people who are looking.
Right.
They're listening. And that's when they're like, wow, the kid's a good writer. He's a funny kid. And that's where you gain your real recognition, and you're able to go on to those bigger stages.
Right. And that's exactly. And I think like a lot of behind the scenes work is so important. Like you can walk on the stage, almost probably 10 out of 10 times, make people laugh, say a joke that you just thought of maybe this morning having a cup of coffee, and you can have the whole room dying, right? But if you always have stuff in your back pocket, and you're writing, you're rehearsing, you do some stuff at home, you're like, let me scratch it. Maybe that doesn't work. Or let me actually, circle something. I'm going to do this.
Right.
I feel like that's got to be, like you said, that's got to be very helpful for you. And sometimes you may just crumple it up and throw it out that night and just do it another joke, right? Go another series of jokes that you may have a crowd on a roll and you want to keep going. Could that happen too?
100%.
Yeah.
The thing is, I was just gonna say, I was striking my thought, but the thing is, whatever you do. So say you're doing a 10-minute set, you should have 20 minutes worth of material ready to go. You do a 15-minute, 30-minute. You should always have double the time because you never know which way it's gonna go. You could be working on material and the crowd's just not feeling it. What do? You gotta switch it up. At that point, you should be able to gauge them to see kind of what they like and what they don't like.
Yeah.
Not that you should cater to the crowd because it's your voice. It's either you're with it or, it's never me, it's always you. You know what I mean?
Right.
but that's the thing. It's, you have to be able to pivot if you need to.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to force feed people something they don't think is funny. It just, it kills everything. I'll make it good maybe for me as the next comedian up, where I could just, because now I'm going to make fun of you, but
right.
you know what I mean? Like I did a show, there was a kid that was supposed to do 5 minutes. He ended up doing like close to 20, and all he did was talk about the most inappropriate things alive.
Really?
Like, I mean, it was,
it was
stuff
bad. That we can't mention on here.
It was very bad. Like, so when I got up on stage, I had to acknowledge it. I said, thank you, because I was closing out the show. I said, thank you, everybody, for sticking around. I appreciate you, everything like that. But probably wasn't the best idea because I'm almost positive each and every one of us are now accomplices to a hate crime. Right? Like that. Like, I almost feel like I Me Too'd myself.
Right.
So, and like, the whole crowd erupted in laughter because we all had to sit through that.
Yeah.
So at least I owned it up for him.
Yeah.
And once that happened, it broke the ice. Everyone got a little loose. I'm like, no, seriously, call a lawyer. Like, you know what I mean? Like I pushed it a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then I went into my stuff and had a good time.
That's great. And I feel, and that's a good point too. Like, in comedy, it seems like people, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like people kind of are like driven towards like inappropriate jokes or sometimes sensitive subjects for most people, or other people can handle that and they laugh, right?
Yeah.
We know it's all good fun. I mean, you look at the comedians of Don Rickles and the roast of Dean Martin and Andrew Dice Clay and George Carlin, and the old school guys back then, you could say whatever you want.
Sure.
Nowadays, which brings me to my next topic or my next point is, you kind of have to watch what you say and maybe tell me if I'm wrong. But I think some people may take things the wrong way. You can get away with a lot more 35, 40 years ago than you can do in 2023, right?
Yeah, I mean,
You
yes.
ever take that into account when you do your shows?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. So, I mean, with me, this whole cancel culture thing, I'll be honest with you, I could care less. I really, I don't care. Because here's the thing. First of all, I don't really, like every comedian, they want to walk that line and be like edgy and this. It's not, they think maybe the worse they talk, the more edgy they are. It's not like that. For me, I don't think a certain way. I don't act a certain way. I don't talk a certain way. So I don't really have to worry when I get on stage, like, ooh, I got to be careful I don't say this. Or that. I don't even say that or think it anyway. So it's like not even in my mind, my vocabulary.
Right.
I don't care. Like, my whole thing is, like, I want comedy for me has to be inclusive. Nobody